Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. On July 4th, 1863, newspapers across the loyal United States published editorials about the role and responsibility of Americans in this time of great peril for the Constitution. They touched on common themes, including the Declaration of Independence, the sin of slavery, freedom, liberty, the spirit of the founders, and how the secession rebellion of Southern states ended the many years of peaceful government since the beginning of the country. One newspaper in Council Bluffs, Iowa, spoke for many when it called for renewed efforts to crush that rebellion and preserve freedom, just as word of the twin victories at Gettysburg and Vicksburg gave renewed hope that the United States would prevail, still not out of the woods by a long shot. I want to share with you what Iowans in Council Bluffs read on Saturday, July 4th, 1863. It's simply titled The 4th of July. 87 years ago today, the immortal 56 issued an Emancipation Proclamation. It's a reference to the 56 delegates, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, setting forth the great doctrine of liberty and equality and declaring to all the world that thenceforth the North American colonies should be free and independent states, and to the accomplishment of this solemn declaration, they pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honors. A beneficent providence regarded with favor their course and crowned their efforts with triumphant success. Since then, Americans everywhere and under all circumstances have hailed the annual return of this day with joy and thanksgiving, with gladness and merrymaking. We have regarded it as a day of general rejoicing, a fitting reason for assembling together and rehearsing the triumphs of the past, the greatness of the present, and the glories of the future, to congratulate each other upon the growing greatness of our common country, having arisen from 13 weak and dependent provinces to a nation of great, powerful, and independent states. Our population increased until our numbers became as sands upon the seashore, and our territory expanded wider and wider until our boundaries have been extended from the north to the south and from the east to the west. To dilate upon our unprecedented progress, our national prowess, valor, and greatness, the high and enviable position we had attained in the family of nations, and the exceeding greatness yet in store for us in the future, has ever been our program upon the 4th of July. Different is the spirit in which American patriots will today commemorate the anniversary of our national independence. Our boastings are silenced, our vanity is set aside, our pride is fallen, and our path today runs through the valley of humiliations. Fastings and prayer are more appropriate than songs and rejoicings, sackcloth and ashes than music and dancing. Instead of being a time for our people to assemble together and, with hilarious rejoicing, celebrate the noble deeds of our ancestors, it is a time when every man with one drop of American blood in his veins should feel it his duty to take part in reenacting the daring deeds of 76, which render this day memorable. The principles which our fathers pledged their all to support, the government which they poured out their blood to establish, and the great boon of freedom which they purchased with their lives for us and for all coming generations, these, with everything most dear to the heart of an American patriot, have been ruthlessly assailed with all the malignancy of infuriated demons, and today hang trembling in the balance between perpetuity and eternal annihilation. To every American in whose bosom yet burns one spark of the sacred fire that kindled in the breasts of our revolutionary sires this day, will present itself as an occasion for renewing our vows of fidelity to our country, our homes, and our government. As our fathers pledged life, fortune, and sacred honor to the establishment of free government, let us today pledge all that we hold dear in life, even life itself, to its perpetuation. Let us offer ourselves a living sacrifice upon the altar of our country. Though foes without and traitors within may strive to rob us of our heritage, let us stand closer, firmer, steadier upon the rock of our hope, and swear by the eternal the Union shall be preserved. Let us renew our determination and take courage. Many believe, and with not a few, the wish is father to the thought that the end of our national existence is at hand, the last hour of our day. But we cannot so regard it. Through the deep gloom of the present, we behold the brightness of the future as the sun at noonday. Though we may yet be compelled for a time to walk beneath the shadow, the end of night approaches and the day is near. Our country will come forth from the ordeal of the present as gold tried in the fire. She will come up out of the baptism of blood nobler, purer, holier than before, cleansed from the past remaining vestige of oppression. Her banner will be unfurled in the light of the new day, glowing in brighter luster, not a stripe erased or polluted, not a single star obscured, and liberty inscribed upon every fold. Our land will be, in fact, as well as in name, a land of refuge for the downtrodden and oppressed of all nations, a land of free men, not pressed by the foot of any slave, for slavery is dead. It has challenged freedom to mortal combat and has fallen. And blind indeed must be that man who hopes now to save the institution of slavery 1 foot of soil upon the American continent. As well might one lift his arm to check the sweeping tempest or turn the sun from his course, as to endeavor to arrest the tide of popular wrath that is now sweeping slavery to its eternal doom. We have an abiding faith in the ability of the government to overcome all opposition, to rescue itself from the dangers which now beset it, and establish the principle of popular government upon a firmer and surer foundation than ever before. Our cause is right, God is with us, and we cannot fail. But we must not stand idle. The enemy labors diligently, without ceasing, and we must work. Our soldiers who have gone forth to meet the open enemy in the tented field are doing their duty. And why should we, who have a greater work than they to perform, remain idle? We have a more stealthy foe to contend with, and one more dangerous, for the enemy that skulks behind and strikes us in the back is more to be feared than the one that meets us boldly face to face. Against the insidious wiles of these enemies in the garb of friends, the jealousies of the American people should be constantly awake. For let the opportunity but present itself, and they will betray our country into the hands of a despotism 1,000 times more to be dreaded and despised than from that which our fathers tried and died to rescue it. The enemy abroad is not he that is to be dreaded, but the enemy in our midst. Let these be carefully guarded, and no fears need be entertained of the ultimate triumphant success of our arms. Let us bear ever in mind the fact that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty, and as we celebrate the anniversary of the day upon which our fathers declared that liberty should be the inheritance of America, and upon this continent the people should rule, let us emulate their noble example and pledge ourselves to the fulfillment of their high resolve. Let us lay aside all feelings of whatever character which would interfere with our duty as Americans and patriots, and let each one resolve in his own heart, I will support the vigorous prosecution of this war until the old flag, the banner of beauty and glory, shall wave in triumph over every foot of soil between the fisheries of Maine and the Gulf of Mexico. I am for using every means that God has placed in the power of the federal government to crush out this rebellion. If, in doing so, every rebel in the Southern Confederacy has to be exterminated and every Northern traitor hung, live or die, sink or swim, survive or perish, I am for the Union one and indivisible. So there you have it. The words of an editorial unsigned in a newspaper in Council Bluffs, Iowa, published on July 4th, 1863. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.